What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, where we go through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, we have some big Lions news. This morning at about 8:20 a.m., it has been reported that the Detroit Lions are expected to sign a pretty big free agent at a position of need. So let's get it started.
The city's been down, and it found a way to get up. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off, all right? And we're going to stand up, and then it's going to take two more shots to knock us down. We're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
And welcome everybody to our video. Glad you guys are here, and we're back with some Lions free agency news. And here we are. Free agency is officially underway, I guess you could say, for the Detroit Lions. I did not mean to make that rhyme, but it's underway. We have made some re-signings that was going down yesterday, and it probably still could continue. But today, this morning, 8:20 a.m., according to Ian Rappaport, the Detroit Lions are expected to sign one of the top pass catchers still on the market. And that receiver is DJ Chark. This is a player that has been talked about amongst Lions fans, the receiver from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and now he's expected to sign with the Detroit Lions. Now, I don't know the exact contract details of this as of now. I've seen a couple of different things. Most recently, the reports I've seen is it's up to $12 million, which gives you the feeling that it's probably some incentives in there to work up to the $12 million, but I've also seen fully guaranteed. So I don't exactly know what his deal is, but I'm going to assume there's some incentives in there, and it's probably based on games played, I would guess. As the time of recording, I do believe a guy like Allen Robinson is still available, but I don't know exactly what his price point is at after the Christian Kirk signing going down yesterday. We saw Zay Jones get paid a little bit too, and he hasn't had a ton of production, so there is that side of it. Depending on how the Lions set up this contract, they still definitely could have some money to spend. I'm just not sure how they're setting up this contract. Do they throw in a void year? I mean, what's his cap number for this season? What is the amount in incentives here? I'm not exactly sure, but I know that he is going to be a Detroit Lion. Who is DJ Chark? I'm glad I started to dive into this guy's film last night, because I just, you kind of have that feeling. I was like, all right, I'm going to start watching this guy's All 22 again, just to kind of refresh myself. And while I don't know everything I would like to know about DJ Chark, I do feel that I have a good feel on the type of player that the Detroit Lions are getting, but I definitely want to dive into more film here. We will do a video on this player, breaking down what the Lions are getting in DJ Chark, because it's an exciting skill set, and I want to know more about the player. DJ Chark is a 6'4", just under 200-pound receiver from the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's a former second-round pick out of LSU that didn't have crazy production. Some of that was kind of because of the offensive system that he was in, but he lands with the Jacksonville Jaguars in round number 2. His rookie season statistically wasn't a ton of production, but his second season, he was a Pro Bowler. He went over 1,000 yards, 1,008 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 73 receptions in his second season in the NFL. The unfortunate side of that is since that time, he has not been able to reach that production again. In 2020, he only played in 13 games where he had 53 receptions on 93 targets for 706 yards and 5 touchdowns. We'll talk about that season in a minute. And then this most recent season, 2021, missed a lot of time, only played in 4 games because of an ankle injury. So he's only had 7 receptions on 22 targets for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. The injury side of it, very important. Let's just dive into it. Let's knock it out of the way real quick. So he is coming off a pretty massive injury that kicked him out for most of the season last year, which was a fractured ankle in week 4 against the Cincinnati Bengals. I was actually watching that game, and then I was watching the All-22, and I see him, and then the next play I don't see him. Like, this is not like the Jaguars, and I have him on the field. I keep skipping forward. I'm like, okay, he must have had his injuries. Knocked him out for the entire season. The good side of this is that we have seen him running since then. There was videos put out by the Jacksonville Jaguars of him running on a treadmill. So it looks like he has been recovering well from that. I'm sure the Lions definitely took that into consideration as well. He has had a couple of ankle injuries in the past, which is probably the biggest concern going back to 2019. He had an ankle sprain. 2020, he had an ankle sprain. And then this past year, having the ankle fracture. Definitely something that you can return from, but it is still cause for some concern. That's also probably part of the reason the Lions gave him the 1-year deal. He's had other injuries as well, like a finger fracture that he had to have surgery on. I don't think he actually missed any time because of that. Shin bruise. He's had a couple of other injuries, ribs, but nothing as serious. He's had a quad injury that forced him to miss some time back in 2018, but really nothing as serious as the ankle injury that he's had most recently. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. And it could be part of the reason the Lions gave him a 1-year deal. I got to believe it's sort of like a prove-it deal. It's more than what they're going to be paying Tyrell last year, but it's also sort of like a prove it deal where I gotta believe if there are incentives here, it will be based on games played. I would do that because it's like, hey, we just need you on the field. All right, we feel like we can get the production out of you if we signed you. It's just we need to find a way to get you on the field. So incentives are stay on the field. Here's how you're going to make a little bit of extra cash with the Detroit Lions. That's what I would think. Again, I don't know what the cap number is or anything like that. But also on top of that, you know it's a big season for Jared Goff, and now they got that weapon on the outside, at least one of the weapons on the outside. They feel like can stretch the field because he absolutely can, could help them in the red zone a little bit, and just be able to take the top off. But what they said they were looking for, a guy that can consistently win one-on-one. And while I don't think he's the most polished receiver out there by any means, there is a very good skill set that he has, and it's translated from college to the NFL. Seemingly has improved upon that, but that's why I want to dive into more film. When he came out of the draft at the combine, he put up some really nice scores in the explosive categories, but also in the speed category. The guy ran a 4.3 4.40, which we know is some pretty nice long speed, especially at 6'4". He's got a little bit more of a slim frame, but 4.3 4.40, 40-inch vertical, showed some explosiveness and a very explosive broad jump. And we've seen that with some of the pass receivers that the Lions have brought in going back to last season at the outside receiver position, is they want guys that are explosive, and of course they want some speed. That has been the common theme. Speed and explosiveness. He's a very young player because he's just coming off his rookie deal, so he's only 25 years old. No, it's only a one-year deal we're hearing now. It could be a long-term fit for the Detroit Lions depending on how this next season goes. I like about DJ Chark from the film that I've seen so far, because again, I'm going to have to go back and dive into this. But from what I've seen so far, let's start with the speed, because it is one of his best traits. The long speed is huge, and it's allowed him to be a pretty consistent deep threat for the Jacksonville Jaguars through the time that he's been there. This past season, it was highest yards per reception because he had a shortened year. I think it was well over 16 yards per reception. It's always threatening to a defense, and it always backs corners back up. It can force them to give him some cushion if you get some completions over there. DJ Chark's long speed is probably one of the best traits of his game. Combine that with his ball tracking ability, which I think looks pretty darn good. From the film that I've seen, he tracks the football really well, positions himself really well with the timing of a ball that's in the air. He is one of those players that can take the top off of a defense, and he's a very threatening receiver anytime he's on the field, even if he's not getting the football, because of the speed that he has. He looks like he's like galloping when he's running, where I think he could be very beneficial for the Lions based on what we've seen last year and based on some of the skill set that I know about this guy. Play action situations for sure. Whether it's one of our quick play action hitters where it's 15 yards over the middle of the field because he's shown willingness to take some hits over the middle of the field, or being the guy that stretches it over top. Look at a guy like Allen Robinson, we talked about him. He didn't have the deep speed, but he was pretty good at catching like the 15-yard pass over the middle. When I look at a guy like Chark, willingness to take the hit, and he has more speed to be more of a threat to work over top. Something that the Lions thought they were going to have coming into last year with Perriman and Tyrell, they had really neither of it. But now they're getting some of that here with DJ Chark if he's able to stay on the field. That's one area where I think it'll be good. The other area where I think he'd be beneficial is layer routes, especially on rollouts. Things like that, having dragging, working across the middle of the field. I think that area will also be pretty effective for him as well, because he's able to just utilize his speed, his long speed, to his strengths. He has pretty nice body control as well, which allows him to catch passes in many different positions. He's kind of, had some practice doing that. Detroit Lions don't really have a burner. The burner that they had was Khalif Raymond, but being at 5'9" is a little bit tougher. We saw Khalif Raymond trying to take some of those roles. It's just tough to hit a guy that's 5'9", 40 yards down the field. But a 6'4" receiver that tracks the ball well, that can be nice for an offense. Another part of his game that I do like, and again, this goes back to LSU, but it's something I had to point out because I feel like you can learn a lot about the guy's demeanor as a blocker. What type of player is he, the competitive side to his game. And what you notice about DJ Chark is he's a very willing blocker, to the point that he wasn't one of these receivers that they're taking off the field when they're asking him to run block. Instead, he was the receiver that they were sliding in line to pick up a big block. This is a guy that will block, and I gotta believe, again, that's another thing that the Lions liked. I mean, again, you're not really focused on, okay, how does he block when you're looking at the receiver, but it's the mentality that he plays with. Very competitive. You'll see it after plays. He'll talk to guys defensively. I think there's some untapped potential with this player that the Lions could reach into if he's able to stay on the field. One issue for him, kind of like in Allen Robinson, we talked about him, is the quarterback situation has not been great. And I don't like to use that as an excuse, but it definitely shows up on the film. It's been an issue with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The quarterbacks that they have had throwing to him has been a problem. This past year, of course, it was Trevor Lawrence, and it just never seemed to really click. Makes sense. I mean, it was his first year. Marvin Jones Jr. had success, but he also didn't play the full season. It's either been a guy like Blake Bortles, Mike Glennon, Gardner Minshew, Jake Luton, Nick Foles. I mean, those are the quarterbacks that he's played with. When you watch him, there is a lot left on the table for really every receiver based on the quarterback play that they have. Just very inconsistent. The timing usually isn't that great. It's kind of hard to watch at times with the quarterback play to the receiver. So he's kind of had to deal with that. And yes, I do believe that will be better with the Lions, especially knowing what kind of our system is and how we thrive and where he's going to kind of plug in and play. This is an understandable scheme fit for the Detroit Lions. There are some areas that I do wonder about, and I really got to dive more into the film for this. One of them, of course, being route running, consistent ability to get separation. Consistently taking the top off, your separation numbers aren't going to be that great. Because while he does have the long speed, that's usually not just the end-all be-all in the NFL. You're going to have to make some contested grabs. And for him, that's an area that I really want to continue to dive into. Short and intermediate levels is where he has had inconsistency separating consistently. Some of that is his body type, kind of his shiftiness, his breaks, his cuts. He definitely doesn't look like the type of nuanced, intermediate, short yardage route runner that a guy like Allen Robinson was. He does show some nice route running is when he's taking the top off, and you see it in his double moves, the way that he sets up double moves, really the deep stem of a route. That's where he can be pretty effective to get some space and work over the top of the defense. But I feel like there was still some meat left on the bone there, just aside from the quarterback play, but also the way that you utilize the player. He is a guy that I think could be used a little bit more underneath. Again, I don't know if I see consistent separation in terms of some of the routes that you may ask him to run underneath. Definitely a player that could drag across the middle a little bit more, be someone that you can work out of the backfield possibly a little bit. This is a player with a punt return background going back to LSU. He's pretty comfortable with the ball in his hands, it seems. Does fight for extra yards. Of course, the speed being a part of that, where he is a threat to take the top off. His first touch in college, when he was wearing like 83, his first touch went for a 70-plus yard touchdown on a reverse. Things like that are ways that you can get him involved rather than just having him run deep all the time. I've even seen some reps where they put him on the line of scrimmage. They have him kind of just fade out, run into the flats. There is some left on the bone there, I think, in terms of yards after catch, and that's another area where I didn't think Allen Robinson brought much to the table, is what he does once the ball is in his hands. Again, he has kind of a slim frame, and you have seen issues with him getting off the press at times. We'll see where the Lions decide to put him, but he's a player that I think could be effective on the line of scrimmage, but also off the line of scrimmage as well. If Josh Reynolds is lined up on the line of scrimmage because he was our X last season, and you put him off the line of scrimmage, I think he could be very effective there, because then you take away the part of his game which is trying to play through that physical contact, which can slow down the timing of his routes, because now they have that X receiver, because Lions have what could be their X receiver in a Josh Reynolds. You could take some of that off of him, which can allow him to get up to speed a little bit faster. As he gets up to speed, that deep speed is something that cornerbacks have to respect. I think it's a kind of nice pairing, honestly, between Josh Reynolds and DJ Chark. We saw with the Jaguars last year, they had Marvin Jones and DJ Chark. Chark just didn't play very much, but it's kind of similar, sort of. I think the Detroit Lions can have a nice little pairing between these two outside receivers. Has shown some production as well is the red zone. This is a place where he's been pretty consistently productive. You look at 2025 receptions in the red zone for 4 touchdowns. 2019, 6 receptions for 4 touchdowns. He's consistently been one of their top receivers in the red zone when he's been on the field. I've seen a couple of fade routes and things like that adjusting to the ball, but a lot of it does seem to come when the play is broken down. That's when a lot of things seem to happen for him. Plays breaking down, he creates some space. He's a big target, and he finds a way to get open. So again, maybe there's more that you could utilize him there. Again, I'll have to watch more film to see how many fade routes and stuff like that they actually threw his direction, because it didn't seem like he was their top target there. This is a player that, honestly, you watch his film, from what I've seen, he hasn't put it all together yet, which is probably part of the reason that his price is like it is, plus you throw on top of the injury. It's not all there yet. We haven't seen, I don't think, his full potential yet. The guy is 25 years old. We have not seen what I think DJ Chark can be in the NFL, right? And Allen Robinson, yeah, the quarterback play is not great, but you kind of know who he is. Chark, I still think there's stuff out there that we don't know exactly what he can completely bring to the table. I do wonder a little bit about route running, but if you're going to use him as a layers guy, a play action shot guy, working the middle of the field, I've seen him line up in the slot. They give him in the slot, they have him run a two-way go. He's got a ton of speed, and he could just take off. His pass catching, which was a concern coming out of college, has seemed to be pretty good. He's only accounted for a few drops in the past 4 years. I know he hasn't played in tons of games, but he hasn't accounted for many drops. His pass catching looks pretty good as well. Over the shoulder, over the shoulder, body adjustments. I mean, he is super smooth when it comes to taking a deep shot. Now, I don't know if I've seen enough attacking the football as I would like to see, but he still is efficient there. Like, yeah, attacking the football might look a little more pretty than just trying to like drop into the bucket, but when they give him the targets and he does that, he still comes up with the football. It's the body positioning that he does early, which makes him, to me, very successful as a patch catcher on deep shots. There's speed from the slot position. I think there's some versatility here, and I think this is a player that they haven't tapped into everything that he could be, and part of that's he's got to stay on the field. So it's an interesting signing. Again, this could definitely leave the door open for another big signing for the Lions. Would not be shocked because I don't know what the cap number is, but it could leave that door open. Lions have done a really good job with their contracts. But again, what did we expect this offseason? Plug holes, right? Plug holes and re-sign your guys. What are the Lions doing? Big need, receiver. Okay, we're going to plug it. Short-term deal. They don't give out tons of monster long-term deals to players that they're not familiar with. Like, if it's a guy that I don't have a connection with, I'm not exactly sure how he's going to fit, specifically with Chark, the injuries. I'm not going to go give him a 4-year deal. I'm going to give him a 1-year deal, even if that means a higher cap number this year, to just see what he can do with this offense. Give him a chance, highly incentive-based, hopefully. And then we'll see where we can go from there. That way we're not stuck and locked on the books with a guy that turns out he can't play at all. That's what the Lions have done. That's what the Rams have done in the past. That's what the Lions are doing now. Always seen so far in his career, he doesn't seem like a high reception guy, but he's also missed some time. But again, I think there's more ways that you can utilize him possibly with a little bit more stability and maybe the offensive scheme that you're looking for and the quarterback play. I think there will be more success for DJ Chark. The biggest thing for him is staying healthy. Kind of gave me some like Christian Watson in ways vibes coming out of this year's draft. Big body receiver that can do some things with the ball in his hands. Kind of gave me some vibes of a player like that. For him, it's just going to be about staying healthy. Plus, I think it also opens up for the draft. Even if you didn't add another receiver, it opens up for the draft, you know, the potential to go with a guy like a Wan'Dale Robinson, someone like that out of Kentucky, right? A smaller receiver, a little bit shiftier, because now you have another taller outside body that you feel like can win out there. But if they did sign another guy in free agency, another receiver, I still wouldn't be shocked either. Found out the idea of the Lions going and grabbing and making another splash free agent signing somewhere, because I could see it happening, especially if it is a Marcus, who apparently the Lions are still interested in with the Washington Commanders now. Don't be surprised if the Lions do that. They've been kind of holding some of their cash, but a couple of big free agents here and there is something that's very possible for the Lions, especially a guy like Marcus because of his connections. That could be a long-term deal. So we'll see what happens, but DJ Chark is a Lion, and I got to be honest, man, he's very interesting because this will be a fun player to dive into the film on because I think there's a lot that I just want to see. And I think the situation that he's been at, the quarterback play, the offense, has just not been good. The separation hasn't been consistent. You'll see him at intermediate routes, short routes. You'll see him intermediate. He doesn't have great nuance to it. He doesn't have explosive cuts where he sells routes extremely well. He kind of rounds them off. That's an area where it has to improve with Antoine Randall. But deep shots, double moves, it's fun to watch. It really is. And I think there's more there in terms of after the catch that has been left on the table. So that's my thoughts on DJ Chark as of now. He has punt return background in college. He's played some kick return in the NFL. I doubt that he does either of those with the Detroit Lions, but he could if they needed him to. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on DJ Chark, and we'll continue with Lions free agency news. We'll do a video on him at some point, probably when free agency starts to calm down, and talk about what the Lions are getting in their receiver. But until then, thank you for watching. Check out DoseOfDN.com for the updates, and I'm out.